Have you ever thought about using trading bots? I used Bitsgap in the last bull market and turned $1,000 into $50,000 within a 5-month period. I documented the whole process and put it in a playlist if you want to see that, along with other training videos and tutorials how to set bots up and make the most of the volatility of the crypto market. If you sign up with a link in the description, you'll get a 7 days free trial with no obligation to continue, and you can also use a demo account within Bitsgap so you don't have to risk your own capital. Bitsgap! Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's get stuck into a bit of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dixie, traditional markets. It seemed interesting last night on the end of the Patreon live stream. It still looks pretty good to be fair, but what we really want to see would be a candle body closure on a daily above this major resistance, which at the moment we're above. We've seen this before, we were above there over here. We were above yesterday, but we closed below. So, you know, the candle bodies count for something. Wicks show that you know, they tell the story that the selling pressure is too much, and candle bodies close with conviction, and so we didn't get the close above the support, the resistance, but we are now above it now. So take it as you like. You could choose to interpret this on the form of a 4-hourly where it does start to look good, and look, if you look at it on a daily, then I suppose we are talking about a breakout of momentum. We've been looking at this now for, well, since the 23rd, so basically a week ago momentum did break. We've got volume is also breaking as well. There's lots of altcoins that are looking like this as well, so it's not just Bitcoin, so it does point to further upside generally, but confirmation for me would be a breakout of momentum on the RSI, also a positive cross on the MACD would be good as well, and a breakout on the money flow index, which we've got, but I want to see a breakout on price action. This looks like it's going to do that, but I want to see a daily closure. Also, we shouldn't sort of fool ourselves into thinking anything other than this is getting pretty hot on the weekly, and this is my main concern about Bitcoin. Obviously, the money flow index doesn't pinpoint an exact top, especially when you look at it on a weekly. It's never a good thing to look at to say that this is exactly where the top's going to be. It's a risk barometer, if anything else. And we've seen this here, here, and here, and I've been showing this for like a week now, so I'm sure it's nothing new to you. And on these two occasions, we did have huge consolidations. That's a bear market right there. This was a bubble pop with a 6 to 8 month consolidation, and this was a 30% pullback, which led into an Altseason, which does add an element of hopium when seeing it happen right now. But it doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. You know, I'm just putting it out there. It's not, you know, it's not a good look for it. You know, and when it comes to risk to reward, but as we are now sort of, I suppose, teasing with the idea of breaking through that that level, that support stroke resistance level, the next major area on this chart is roughly around the 43,000. I mean, we can put it in here on the weekly. It's, you know, there's wicks and candle bodies all over the place, so if anything, it is a bit more of a box. We should probably lower it a little bit to that wick because that's pretty significant. So we're talking about, we'll call it 42,500 really, but it's an area. It's not exactly particularly clear exactly where that next major level of resistance is going to be. And so with every move up, especially to this into the 43s, you've got to kind of be expecting a pullback. Maybe even that's where the top might be. You know, that's what we should sort of start to expect for Bitcoin. Now, if it breaks there, then obviously you go higher, and we'll be looking for somewhere along the lines of about 48. But without turning this chart into like a zebra crossing with all these white lines that I'm drawing everywhere, we'll just take it one step at a time. So if we just go to a 4-hourly now and have a little closer look, it looks quite good. What we see here is the Ichimoku cloud has generated a relatively decent signal, which is a trend signal. It's very early on. The 10 exponential is now crossing up above this support, so that makes it more likely that we will, you know, find support there, and that's basically $500 away from price action right now. And again, you know, when we're looking at the 4-hourly momentum, volume, and all the good stuff is turned up, so it does look like it wants to continue on. So I always try to make the analogy because people always want to hear a call, but you know, if there was a gun to my head and someone forced me to trade it, I would say I expect further upside, and I still think, you know, we were likely to see the resistance at 43 that kind of area. I think that's our next destination. I also think that Ethereum's looking relatively good, but it's definitely weaker than Bitcoin, or maybe it's just delayed. There's nothing wrong with a lagging chart so long as it does fulfill its main ambition, which is to break the resistance. And for the moment, the resistance is up here at 2,140. Wow, 2,150. Right, so until Ethereum breaks, then Altseason, particularly for major rallies, is delayed. We're still looking at this chart, which basically is like Ethereum. The total market cap 2, which excludes Bitcoin but includes Ethereum. We want to see that break this $671 billion mark, and once that's broken, we'd be looking for a major move, which is roughly about 40%. So if you could target most altcoins 40% above where they are right now, that's where the destination would be, give or take. Top caps move less, smaller caps move more. No altcoin is created equal, so you've also got to trade them based on their own charts. You can't just say, oh, I think all altcoins are going to go up, even though that's most likely the case. You want to trade charts which point to up with signals and setups. This is just going to give us a bit more of a green light to say that that's what's going to happen. And at the moment, we're still below that area, just like Ethereum is still below its major resistance. So until that breaks, there's nothing much more to say. So we'll have a quick look at Bitcoin dominance, which is turning up now. So we had a consolidation, moved up on the 50 exponential on this daily. That's fine. So this does look like it wants to sort of meander its way back up again. And this would also be okay as well, because I was saying last night on the old stream that I would feel more confident in Altseason 2.0 if we were pushing a major resistance on the dominance chart, roughly around 57.5%. But because we're not there right now, and this is a chart which looks like it wants to continue to trend up, then Altseason might be postponed until we get to that level. If we broke the total 2 at the same time as a resistance on the Bitcoin dominance, it would make it feel a little bit like 2021 again, which is basically what happened. So this means a move on the dominance chart to the tune of like 8%. So let's just imagine that this is what happens. That's the sort of thing that you would imagine seeing if Bitcoin rallied to $48,000 and altcoins sort of didn't really do much or just lagged behind, which is basically what they're doing right now. So if that happened, that's where an Altseason could be pretty significant, and you get that 40% breakout on the total 2, and you get that rejection on the Bitcoin dominance chart, and then you get an Altseason similar to 2021, which is basically what happened over here. And again, when I say similar, it's a similar kind of environment, but it won't be the same kind of gains. It's not a parabolic season. It's not that sort of environment right now. So that's what that would be a great setup. But we're not there, so that's just hypothetical at the moment. So we'll just hope that does come to fruition. But if it doesn't, then it's just a thought. Until we see that become something that is tangible, we shouldn't hold out for it. These charts aren't matching. Right, so let's have a look at the Dixie. So the Dixie continuing with its weakness, but having a little bit of a move in the green today. It did this yesterday and then fell further down. As far as supports are concerned on this point now, it does look like it wants to move down to like basically 102 flat, and maybe even further down from there. The continued and sustained weakness on the Dixie does surprise me, especially with the ECB effectively saying, without saying, that they're not going to do any more raising of rates. So I would expect to see a weaker euro, but the euro is still pushing stronger and stronger and stronger. Let's have a look at the euro dollar. So a bit of a rejection taking place at the moment, but to be fair, this area is not really what I would consider a resistance. Not really. There was a peak over here. I'll probably be looking for a little higher, probably towards 111, maybe 112. So it does look like it wants to keep going. Lots of bearish divergence on the 4-hourly. On the daily, there is none. So as far as the euro is concerned, I think it wants to go more. We've got golden cross now on the exponentials. We've got a pump signal that was generated yesterday on the Ichi cloud on the daily. So I think further upside is probably more likely than that. So that bodes well really for a down on the Dixie and up on indices, stocks, commodities and crypto. So all of that does look good given that kind of setup in the Forex market. Looking at the S&P now, on the daily we spent 4 days in a row above the resistance stroke support, and now that the 7 simples moving up to that level, it adds more weight to the idea that this is actually going to move up from here. So maybe Bloomberg were right, and they were saying that maybe we're looking for a $5,000 S&P. Which, look, I mean, at the moment, based on the weekly, that could happen. I'm not going to dispute it. Maybe they were right after all, but that's never normally the case. So, look, if we get quite close, we'll front run it a little bit, expecting something like 4,700 on the S&P, just to front run the top, because you know what will happen. Lots of Captain Noob Masters will be putting their sell orders at the absolute top or higher, whereas people with a bit more, who are tuned into the Sanity FM will think to front run that. 4,700 is probably an area of major interest, especially when you've got all these weekly candle bodies here just below the most recent all-time high. So let's just be realistic about where we think that this might go. And again, that's not small. That's not too small really for the S&P in the short term. It's roughly a 4%, 4 to 5%. It's a 4% move, isn't it, really? And that's from here to there. Never mind where we've come from at the bottom of this bear market into this bull market, which is a bull market at the moment. By most people's definition, this has been a bullish year. It's basically been up for everything, full stop. So it's been bullish. But when everything goes up for a whole year, a consolidation is required. I know we had one over here recently, but I think we'll be looking for a longer one, especially as the Dixie gets lower and lower and lower. It can't go to zero, let's face it, and so it's going to turn around at some point. We had a big turnaround on the 200 exponential on this weekly before. Maybe that's where we'll be seeing it again, and that'll still just be a higher low. So this in keeping with the overall vibe of this ascending, rising channel, basically. Which again is bullish until it breaks down. This has been going on since, when was the low formed? May 2011. So it has been a bullish chart for 12, going on 13 years now. So let's face it, that's a bullish until proven otherwise. These formations do often break down. It will break down at some point, but is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the decade that it does it? Don't know. Until then, we just use the normal trading tools that seem to be working pretty well and expect a higher low, probably around the 100 flat. Right, so again, that's basically it. But back to Bitcoin. In summary, it does look quite good based on the 4-hourly. I really want to see a daily closure above this support. That'll add a lot more weight to the fact that this is going to move up into the lower and maybe up of $40,000. And Ethereum needs to wake up a little because it's lagging behind and it's holding all the altcoins back. And on the stream last night, we were relatively bullish about everything that we were seeing, but you have to hold your breath a bit, because even though all these altcoins we were looking at last night were pointing to short-term decent targets and then mid-term really good targets, some of them are looking to double in price if they can break the resistance, if there's a sustained move in the market. Those targets are realistic, but Bitcoin's overheated money flow index definitely makes me a little skeptical that we can achieve those, and no altcoin will be able to fulfill like a really good setup if Bitcoin decides that it's had enough. It's happened maybe once in recent memory that sort of scenario has happened. So statistically it's kind of unlikely, but it's not impossible because we've seen it before. But we shouldn't hold out for that, because again, statistically that kind of setup is not the most likely outcome, although it's not impossible. So day by day we'll monitor this. We can start to think about altcoins, particularly when Ethereum breaks and holds above 2,150 and total market cap finally makes its breakout from this major area, because that's when things will get really interesting. Until then, it's watch and wait and see. There's nothing wrong with holding altcoins or crypto or anything in this period, because the chances are it should make some gains on the short term. The big gains are still pending. We've not got the exact setup that we want to not guarantee, but make it more likely that we will achieve that 40% gain on altcoins, or obviously more depending on the altcoin, obviously. Right, that's pretty much it. If you want to join the Patreon, we do 2 live streams a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, so there's links in the description below. Other than that, I hope you have a nice day and take it easy.